If you want to, or if you can, make sure to go and support me on my Ko-Fi page, TikTok, and on my itch.io page. Links are all in the description below. So we all know about the Balkans, we all know about the CIA, we all know about the Cold War. But did you guys know that the CIA actually had an operation to take down the Albanian communist leader at the time, Enver Hoxha, and install a democratic leader or a democratic placeholder which would go in place of Enver Hoxha and practically reform Albania into a fully democratic state, fully on the side of NATO. Now, in our own history, the CIA was unsuccessful. They were actually quite close to succeeding, but they were unsuccessful after the leader, Enver Hoxha, found out the entire operation and kicked out all the CIA agents, and that also indirectly caused a massive purge throughout the entire country and also massive paranoia within Enver Hoxha and his surroundings as well, which also caused him to grow much closer to Stalin in the Warsaw Pact. But what if this didn't happen? What if the CIA was fully successful, took down Enver Hoxha and his government, and installed a democratic leader in his place? Now, how exactly this would happen and how exactly the CIA would achieve this, I am not sure of, and I'm not gonna go into much detail as to how this would happen and who would come in charge as well. But all we have to focus on is that after around the start of the 1960s, Enver Hoxha is assassinated by a CIA agent and is replaced by a democratic placeholder, which, with massive support from the CIA, manages to gain power in Albania and starts to rapidly steer and reform the nation towards being way more aligned towards NATO and America and becoming a democratic state. Now, right after this would happen, a lot of things would go down. Paranoia would go crazy in Yugoslavia, as now they think that they would be next on the chopping block. They would fear that after the fall of Albania, they would be next, as they had a lot of ethnic Albanians living in Yugoslavia, and not only that, but Yugoslavia would be a very crucial nation to be taken over by the CIA next. And so the Yugoslavs, becoming absolutely paranoid, would start to militarize up insanely fast. They would start to put their military on their border with Albania and Italy, fearing some kind of CIA invasion or NATO invasion or intervention or whatnot. Massive purges and political assassinations against any non-communist would take place all across the country, and the country would become 1,000,000 times more paranoid now after the fall of Albania. This could also lead to closer ties with the Soviet Union and the restoration of better relations. Speaking of the Soviet Union, they'd of course be absolutely terrified of this new prospect, as now they fear that other nations within the Warsaw Pact, such as Bulgaria, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and other nations, especially ones that have revolted before, like Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia, would have fallen under the CIA in one way or another. Albania, under this new democratic rule, would start to prosper. Their economy would start to rise, the people would become much more happy again, full freedom of press would be established once again, and the country in almost all sectors would start to rapidly and massively improve. And so after this, the Cold War pretty much goes on in the same way as in our own history. Almost nothing else really changes, besides the fact that NATO and EU expansion would be a bit more accelerated, and also the fall of Yugoslavia would most likely be a lot more faster due to the fact that they would be a lot more tied to the Soviet Union and its fall as well. And that's where I'm gonna end off today's scenario, as really nothing much else changes here. As really, besides the stuff I've just said here, nothing much else changes, and it would be nonsensical for me to continue. So I hope you enjoyed today's scenario, and I'll see you all in the next one.